Good morning, guys. This is the reading for Tuesday. We're going to be reading 115 to 123. It's kind of a heightened situation now at this point reading. So, Montag is trying to get away from whoever is going to try to get him for killing Beatty. Unfortunately, the mechanical hound was able to get a hold of Montag's leg. And you know how the mechanical hound has that like protruding needle that administers like a numbing agent. It's numbed his leg, so he's only got one leg working right now. Not good. And remember, he is trying to get back to Faber because he has money for Faber so that they can hire somebody to make copies of books and plant them in firemen's houses so that the firemen will be caught reading, and then citizens will be like, well, why are the firemen reading? Why are they hiding books? Maybe there's something in books that I want to know more about. So think of it, in terms of, citizens are going to start to wonder, like, why are these firemen hiding all these amazing books? Like, why are they doing that? So, and then maybe they'll open a book. And that's kind of the goal of Montag and Faber. But in the middle of all of this, the world's kind of crashing down around Montag. He's lost his wife now. She told on him and left. He's killed Beatty. He's beat the crap out of three other firemen. His house is destroyed. Um, so he has nowhere else to go. So luckily he did find Faber, who, remember, is this retired English professor. 115. A shotgun blast went off in his leg every time he put it down, and he thought, "You're a fool. You're a damn fool, an awful fool, an idiot, an awful idiot, a damn idiot, and a fool, and a damn fool. Look at the mess, and where's the mop? Look at the mess, and what do? Pride, damn it, and temper, and you've junked it all up. At the very start, you vomit on everyone and on yourself. But everything was at once, but everything one on top of the other. Beatty, the women, Mildred, Clarice, everything one on top of the other. No excuse, though. No excuse. A fool, you are a damned fool. Go give yourself up. No. We'll save what we can. We'll do what there is left to do. If we have to burn, let's take a few more with us. Here." He remembered the books and turned back. Just on the off chance, he found a few of them where he had left them, near the garden fence. Mildred, God bless her, had missed a few. 4 books still lay hidden where he had put them. Voices were wailing in the night, and the flash beams swirled around. Other salamanders were roaring their engines far away, and police sirens were cutting their way across town with their sirens. Montag took the 4 remaining books and jolted, hopped his way down the alley, and suddenly fell as if his head had been cut off and only his body lie there. So he's trying to get away from the scene of the crime, right? Because the neighbors have come out of their houses. They've found Beatty burnt to a crisp. You have these 3 firemen that have been beat up. So they're calling the police, and the police are coming to see what happened. Have you ever had like your arm or your leg fall asleep, and you're trying to get it to wake up and it starts to, but it hurts and you can barely walk on it? It's kind of like that, but worse with this situation with Montag. All right, let's see here. Okay. Something inside him had jerked him to a halt and flopped him down. He lay where he had fallen and sobbed, his legs folded, his face pressed blindly to the gravel. Beatty wanted to die. In the middle of the crying, Montag knew it was true, for Beatty had wanted to die. He had just stood there, not really trying to save himself. Just stood there, joking, needling, thought Montag, and the thought was enough to stifle his sobs and let him pause for air. How strange, strange to want to die so much that you let a man walk around armed, and then instead of shutting up and staying alive, you go on and you yell at people and make fun of them until you get them mad, and then, in a distance, running feet. Montag sat up. "Let's get out of here. Come on, get up, get up. You just can't sit here." But he was still crying, and he had to be finished. It was going away now. He hadn't wanted to kill anyone, not even Beatty. His flesh gripped him and shrank as it had been plunged in acid. He gagged, he saw Beatty, a torch not moving, fluttering out of the grass. He bit at his knuckles. I'm sorry, oh God, I'm sorry. He tried to piece it all together, to go back to the normal pattern of life, a short days ago, before the sieve and the sand and the Denham's dentifrice, the moth voices, the fireflies, the alarms and excursions, too much for a few short days, too much, indeed, for a lifetime. Feet ran in the far end of the alley. Get up, he told himself. Damn it, get up, he said to the leg, and stood. The pains were spikes driven in the kneecap, and then only daring needles, and then only common, ordinary safety pins. And after he had shagged along 50 more hops and jumps, filling his hand with slivers from the board fence, the prickling like someone blowing a spray of scalding water on that leg, and the leg was at last his own leg again. He had been afraid that running might break loose the ankle. Now, sucking all the night into his open mouth and blowing it out pale, with all the darkness left heavily inside himself, he sat out in a steady, jogging pace. He carried the books in his hand. He thought of Faber. Faber was back there in that steaming lump of tar that had no name and no identity now. He had burnt Faber too. He felt so suddenly shocked by all this that he felt Faber was really dead, baked like a roach in that small green capsule, shoved and lost in the pocket of a man who was now nothing but a framed skeleton, strung with asphalt tendons. So in a way he feels like he's burned Faber too, when in actuality he just burned the green little bullet that was in his ear. You must remember, burn them or they'll burn you, he thought. Right now it's as simple as that. He searched his pockets. The money was there, and in his other pocket he found the usual seashell upon which the city was talking to itself in the cold, black morning. So he found his seashells that, give him information, just the news. Police alert, wanted, fugitive in city, has committed murder and crimes against the state. Name, Guy Montag. Occupation, fireman. Last seen... He ran steadily for 6 blocks in the alley, and then the alley opened out into a wide, empty thoroughfare, 10 lanes wide. So he's running, and he happens onto this 10-lane highway. It seemed like a boatless river frozen there in a raw light of the high white arc lamps. You could drown trying to cross it. He felt it was too wide, it was too open, it was vast stage without scenery, inviting him to cross it, easily seen in the blazing illumination, easily caught, easily shot down. The seashell hummed in his ear. Watch for a man running. Watch for the running man. Watch for a man alone, on foot. Watch. Montag pulled back in the shadows. Directly ahead lay a gas station, a great chunk of porcelain snow shining there, and 2 silver beetles pulling in to fill up. Now he must be clean and presentable if he wished to walk, not run, stroll calmly across this wide boulevard. It would give him an extra margin of safety if he washed up and combed his hair before he went on his way to get... where? Yes, he thought, where am I running to? Nowhere. There was nowhere nowhere to go, no friend to turn to, really, except Faber. And then he realized that he was indeed running towards Faber's house, instinctively. But Faber couldn't hide him. It would be suicide even to try. But he knew that he would go to see Faber anyway, for a few short minutes. Faber's would be the place where he might refuel his fast-draining belief in his own ability to survive. He just wanted to know that there was a man like Faber in the world. He wanted to see the man alive and not burned back there like a body shelled in another body. And some of the money must be left with Faber, of course, to be spent after Montag ran on his way. Perhaps he could make the open country and live on or near rivers and near the highways and the fields and the hills. A great whirling whisper made him look to the sky. The police helicopters were rising so far away that it seemed someone had blown the gray head off of a dry dandelion flower. 2 dozen of them flurled, wavering, indecisive, 3 miles off, like butterflies puzzled by autumn. And then there was a pummeling down to land, one by one, here and there, softly kneading the streets where, turned back to beetles, they shrieked along the boulevards or as suddenly leapt back into the air, continuing their search. So in this time there are helicopters, but the helicopters are also cars. So in the air you have 2 dozen helicopters whirling around looking for Montag and then coming down to the ground and driving around. So they're already looking for him. And keep in mind, guys, this is one man. And this is what the government is doing to find him. You've got 12 helicopters. It's all over the news. The government is wigging out. There is a reason they want to stop this guy. And here was the gas station. Its attendants busy now with customers. Approaching from the rear, Montag entered the man's washroom. Through the aluminum wall, he heard a radio voice saying, "War has been declared." The gas was being pumped outside. The men in the Beetles were talking, and the attendants were talking about the engines and the gas and the money owed. Montag stood there trying to make himself feel the shock of the quiet statement from the radio. But nothing would happen. The war would have to wait for him to come to it in his personal file. An hour, 2 hours from now. He washed his hands and face and toweled himself dry, making little sound. He came out of the washroom and shut the door carefully and walked into the darkness and at last stood again on the edge of this empty boulevard. Have you guys ever seen a street at night when the lights are beaming down on it and nobody is on the street and it looks like a still river? It's just this black sheet. And that is what he's looking into. 10 lanes, black sheet. But if he runs across that boulevard, he could easily be spotted from above. There it lay, a game for him to win, a vast bowling alley of the cool morning. The boulevard was as clean as the surface of an arena 2 minutes before the appearance of certain unknown victims and certain unknown killers. The air over and above the vast concrete river trembled with the warmth of Montag's body alone. It was incredible how he felt his temperature could cause the whole immediate world to vibrate. He was phosphonescent target. He knew it. He felt it. And now he must begin his little walk. 3 blocks away and a few headlights glared. Montag drew a deep breath. His lungs were like burning brooms in his chest. His mouth was sucked dry from running. His throat tasted of bloody iron, and there was a rusted steel in his feet. What about those lights there? Once you started walking, you'd have to gauge how fast those beetles would make it down here. Well, how far it to be the other curb. It seemed like 100 yards. Probably not 100, but figured that anyway. Figured that with him going very slowly, at a nice stroll, it might take as much as 30 seconds, 40 seconds to walk all the way. The beetles, once started, they could leave 3 blocks behind them in 15 seconds. So even if halfway across he started to run, they'll catch him. They drive crazy. He put his right foot out, and then his left foot, and then his right. He walked on the empty boulevard. Even if the streets were entirely empty, of course, you couldn't be sure of the safe crossing, for a car could appear suddenly over the rise 4 blocks further on and beyond and past you before you had taken a dozen breaths. He decided not to count his steps. He looked neither to the left nor to the right. The light from the overhead lamp seemed as bright and unrevealing as the midday sun and just as hot. He listened to the sound of the car picking up speed 2 blocks away on his right. Its movable headlights jerked back and forth suddenly and caught at Montag. "Keep going." Montag faltered, got a grip of his books, and forced himself not to freeze. Instinctively, he took a few quick running steps. He was now half across the street, but the roar from the Beetle's engine whined higher as it put on speed. "The police, of course. They see me." But slow now, slow, quiet. Don't turn, don't look, don't even seem concerned. Walk. That's it. Walk. Just walk. The beetle was rushing. The beetle was roaring. The beetle raised its speed. The beetle was whining. The beetle was high in thunder. The beetle came skimming. The beetle came in a single whistling trajectory, fired from an invisible rifle. It was up to 120 miles an hour. It was up to 130 at least. Montag clamped his jaws. The heat of the racing headlights burnt his cheeks. It seemed jittered his eyelids and flushed the sour sweat all over his body. He began to shuffle idiotically and talk to himself, and then he broke into just a run. He put one leg as far as he could and go down and back up, and then as far out again and down and back out, and down and back. God, he dropped the books, broke pace, almost turned, changed his mind, plunged on, yelling in concrete emptiness. The beetle scuttling after its running food. 200, 100 feet away, 90, 80, 70. Montag gasping, flailing his hands, legs up and down and out, closer, closer, hooting, calling, his eyes burnt white now as his head jerked, about to confront the flashing glare. Now the beetle was swallowed in its own light. Now it was nothing but a torch hurling upon him, all sound, all blare, now, almost on top of him. He stumbled, and then he fell. I'm done. It's over. But the falling made a difference. An instant before reaching him, the wild beetle cut and swerved out. It was gone. Montag lay flat, his head down. Wisps of laughter trailed back to him with the blue exhaust from the beetle. This beetle was like chasing after him like he was prey. And it wasn't police, and it wasn't firemen. It was just some people having fun with this guy. They were going to like try to kill him. They were messing with him. His right hand was extended above him, flat, across the entire tip of his middle finger. He saw now that as he lifted his hand, a faint 16th of an inch of black tread where the tire had touched in passing. They run over his middle finger. He looked at that black line in disbelief, getting to his feet. That wasn't the police, he thought. He looked down the boulevard. It was clear now, a car full of children, all ages, God knew, from 12 to 16, out whistling and yelling and hurrahing, and had seen a man, a very extraordinary sight, a man strolling, a rarity, and simply said, "Let's get him," not knowing he was a fugitive. Montag, simply a number of children out for a long night of roaring 500 or 600 miles in a few moonlight hours, their faces icy with wind, and coming home or not coming home at dawn, alive or not alive, that made the adventure. They would have killed me, thought Montag, swaying, the air still torn and stirring about him in dust, touching his bruised cheek. For no other reason at all in the world, they would have killed me. He walked toward the far curb, telling each foot to go and to keep going. Somehow he had picked up the spilled books. He didn't remember bending or touching them. He kept moving them from hand to hand as if they were a poker hand he could not figure out. I wonder if they were the ones who killed Clarice. He stopped, and his mind said it again, very loud. I wonder if they were the ones who killed Clarice. He wanted to run after them, yelling. His eyes watered. The thing that had saved him was falling flat. The driver of the car, seeing him down, instinctively considered the probability that running over a body at such a high speed might turn the car upside down and spill them out. If Montag had remained upright target, Montag gasped. Far down the boulevard, 4 blocks away, the beetle had slowed, spun about 2 wheels, and was now racing back, slanting over on the wrong side of the street, picking up speed. They're coming back after him. But Montag was gone, hidden in the safety of the dark alley for which he had set out on a long journey, an hour, or was it a minute ago? He stood shivering in the night, looking back out at the beetle as it ran by and skidded back to the center of the avenue, whirling laughter in the air all about it, and then gone. Further on, as Montag moved in darkness, he could see the helicopters falling like the first flakes of snow, and a long winter to come. A long winter to come of trying to find him, searching for him. Yesterday, I challenged you guys to think about why Ray Bradbury uses these natural insects and birds, these natural items to connect to unnatural items of the world. You know, calling this car a beetle, calling, you know, the seashell radio like a seashell radio. Really, it's just an AirPod. Um, you know, he refers to books as, and when they're burning, as birds, wings flying in the air. He wants us to see that technology has become so commonplace that it's almost like nature. To not have it would be almost inconceivable. So when he connects this idea of, you know, books being like wings of birds and the beetle as the car and these insects, he's connecting this idea that technology has become so beloved and so common. It's it's as common as air. It's as common as insects. It's as common as birds. And I think he worries for our society that when something like that becomes so common, it becomes you. There's this saying I've spent a lot of time thinking about lately, especially during this situation, and it's show me what you spend your time on, and I'll show you what you value. Show me what you spend your time on, and I'll show you what you value. Show me what you think about most, I'll show you what you value. And that's totally true, you know. If you spend your time on technology, if you spend your time on social media, that's what you value. And at the core of it, it's not that you value Facebook or Instagram or Snap, it's that you value recognition. You value being in the know. You value seeing other people's lives and comparing it to your own, or vice versa. Show me what you spend your time on, and I'll show you what you value. Show me who you spend your time with, and I'll show you what you value. So what an interesting time to be thinking of that, right? I hope everybody's doing okay. I've had some emails, some people confused about things. Please email me if you're confused. Obviously, I'm trying to make this as enjoyable and as interesting as possible. And hopefully these videos help. But, you know, if you need extra support, that's why I'm here. I obviously can't be in my classroom and I can't be with you at your house. So let me help you. Remember that tomorrow your one pager is due. You need to either take a picture of it or you're going to be sharing your slide if you're doing it digitally. I've had a lot of hit and miss assignments lately, people doing them, not doing them. I'm going to explain to you guys again how the grading is going to go, and hopefully that'll help you understand a little bit better. If you have any questions, though, please contact me. Email me. I miss you guys. I hope you're doing well. I miss you. But my husband and I are making homemade Chick-fil-A chicken sandwiches tonight for dinner. Right? Did you know that in the crust they put powdered sugar? What? It's going to be amazing. All right. Have a great night. I hope you guys are having fun, or at least trying to relax a little. I'll talk to you soon. See ya.